Thomas, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah.
Excited.
Nah,
Excited.
No doubt. I'm excited. I mean, we done chopped it up a little bit already, but ultimately your Saturday is going pretty smooth.
Yeah. Son had a game this morning. So one of the things I do is I try to, involve myself in, coaching and spending time with my son, but also helping other kids as well, to encourage them, support them, and try to show the love of Christ, to them through that time, through sports. So.
If you don't mind, man, could you give us a little bit of like background on you, like where you were born, where you were raised, and just kind of like all the ins and outs and in betweens leading up to, us sitting here today.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, man. I was actually born in Frankfurt, Germany. My dad was in the Army. Yep. So I was born over there. I'm the youngest of 6. I'm the only child by my mom and dad. My dad had 4 kids previously. My mom had 1, but we're all close in relationship. So when we left Germany, we were in Tacoma for like a year, Washington, and then we went back to where my mom is from. My mom's from Philly, and my dad's from Jersey, and they're right next to each other, right over the bridge. But I spent most of my young childhood until I was 12 in Philly. Typical inner city, kid. But during that time, when I was 5, my mom and dad separated. So I was in a one-parent household until later on my mom and dad got back together when I was 12. Yeah, my mom and dad got back together. And my mom and dad chose for us to stay in Jersey, because, growing up in the inner city, Philadelphia, it could be pretty tough, So they wanted to, have us in a better, situation. So I stayed in a place called Millville, New Jersey, small town. I did not want to go there. Like, I did not want to go there because I was leaving all my friends.
And this is at 12?
Yeah, it's at 12, yeah. So,
that's that age,
that's the age, right? So I was leaving all my friends that I grew up with in Philly. I had cousins in my neighborhood, that I was real close to. And I just, I just didn't want to leave. I was hooping, I had, good experience and stuff like that. But it was awesome how, like, when we moved to Jersey, how my mom didn't let me sit in like a pity party. She's like, "Come on, boy, I'm taking you to the park." She literally took me to the park, dropped me off. She's like, "You're gonna go play basketball," and left me there. She knew,
just dropped you off.
She just dropped me off. My mom just like, "Hey, get in the car. I'm gonna take you to the park." Dropped me off and left. And I remember meeting this dude named Kurt Griffin that I eventually became friends with. And yeah, that was my first experience of like not sitting in my own little pity party and just like started to like let go. Not leave Philly behind, but like I got to start this new journey, right? But I had other cousins in the area. My dad's side was from the area, so I got to be around my cousins that lived in that area, and kind of build, more with them. I was a sports kid, played pee-wee football, basketball, baseball, was that kid. I didn't grow up in the church, so that wasn't anything that was like, I would say, really influential in my life at a young age. I just remember my grandpop saying like, "Oh, y'all need to take that boy to church," You
remember that?
Like, yeah. And my parents, my dad actually just brought it up recently. Like, I remember your grandpop used to say, "Man, y'all need to take that boy to church," So I grew up, typical kid, going to school, playing sports and stuff. I had cousins and brothers who were incarcerated, so I got to, at a young age, witness, my brothers and my cousins going to prison. So, when I talk to like young people, I tell them, man, like at a young age, when I was going in the prisons, like, I never wanted my cousins or my brothers to be there, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be there because that tears you up, seeing like going into a visit and like get to talk to your family, and then when that hour and a half, 2 hours up,
you gotta leave.
You gotta go, and like I still see it in my mind of giving hugs, and then inmates on the wall, and they got standing against the wall, family over here, So like,
that's traumatic.
Yeah, I vividly like. Remember that, as a little
that.
kid. Yeah. So I tell them, like, it hurts on both sides, the person who's incarcerated and then the family, who's on the outside. So at a young age, I remember that, But I dealt with some things too growing up, anger issues. I felt like that stemmed from when my parents separated, that I never dealt with. So that was some things that was in me as I grew older, right? It was like just under the surface, right? Still there. And, you know, as I grew older, I understood that those were things that I had to like really deal with. I was in denial about some things, and I had to really realize, like, man, this is something I gotta really like, you know, work at. So, you know, I graduated high school and stuff like that. Went to college. You know, did what typical college kids think they should do is party,
right,
get drunk, and all that type stuff. So, anything you can think of in college, I was doing. Yeah, I was experiencing. Then my senior year of college, I had a cousin murdered. My cousin, he was my best friend. He got murdered in Philly. And then I had a aunt that was murdered 6 months later.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was it was my uncle's ex-girlfriend, but I consider her an aunt. She has, you know, kids by, you know, my uncle. So
right. So they're your cousins ultimately?
Yeah, my first cousins. So it was my first cousin's mom, you know. So yeah, experiencing those two situations in, you know, 2007 was really traumatic. And I had a cousin living in San Diego, and he was like, man, hey, just come out here for the summer in 2008, you know, kind of to get away from what's going on there. And I came here, I got away, but I just partied more, I got drunk more, and kind of, you know, was trying to fill that void, chasing women, running from women, filling that void, that emptiness, you know, that I had. And then in 2013, my grandfather passed away, and that's where I heard the gospel and about God's love and forgiveness, and I gave my life to Christ, you know, at my grandfather's funeral.
How old were you at that time?
I was 28, 28, 29, around that. Because it'll be 10 years, so 29.
What year did he pass away?
2013.
2013.
So 10 years this year. So gave my life to Christ, came back. Started doing everything I thought a Christian should do. And then I ran into this guy who wanted to disciple me, invest in my life. And this dude started discipling me and really started helping me point to Christ. You know, everything was about Christ, living a Christ-centered life. And but one thing he also encouraged me to do, he's like, you know, that love and that relationship you have with Christ, you want others to experience, you know, so it's not just for you to hold on to, you want other people to experience the love of Christ as well. So he helped me with that vision, and, you know, now currently I'm married, have a son, and I work for an organization called the Navigators, we focus on discipling young adults in San Diego. Yeah.
And the Navigators, how long has that organization been around?
Man, it's
Can
been
you give us a little backstory on that?
Yeah. The Navigators have been around for, it started technically like the 1930s. A guy named Dawson Troutman, he, you know, received Christ, and he went to his Sunday school teacher, and she basically, you know, started to invest in him, but also gave him the vision to go invest in others. And that's what he started to do. He started to invest in these sailors in the Navy. He started to disciple them, and, you know, reproduction, you know, started to happen. So now we have a lot of ministries, whether it's international, whether it's through churches, whether it's with young adults, college campuses, and military, where our vision is to know Christ, make him known, and help others do the same. So.
And what year did you start pretty much discipling with them?
Yeah. I went on staff in 2020. I was doing stuff before then because I got to build up, fundraise and stuff like that. But once, you know, the guy named Tim started discipling me, and I caught the vision, I started then. So I didn't wait to go on staff to disciple people. It's like I caught the vision of,
and that was as a result of him discipling you.
Him investing in me, right? And I caught the vision, and then I start intentionally living my life as a disciple, first, I got to follow Christ, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. I have to follow Christ and walk in obedience. But I have to go out and
be in the midst
be in the midst, be the light, right? And then, share the gospel with people. Ask people if they want to read the Bible. Live intentionally, because it's not just going to come. No one's going to walk up to you and be like, hey, I want to read the Bible with you. Like, I have to intentionally ask people, like, hey, would you like to read the Bible? And most of the times people, oh, yeah, let's read the Bible together. Mm-hmm. Even if they're not believers, there's a lot of people are still open to see what's in the Bible,
right?
Yeah. So, that vision was set. And then that's when I started going into Donovan State Prison, Kearney Mesa. So the former church I used to go to, they had a big prison ministry. So I did the Donovan State, the Kearney Mesa Juvenile Hall, and I did a Kairos weekend. So that's an international ministry where they focus on doing like a 4-day event in the yards. And you're there probably anywhere between 12 to 16 hours. You're there kind of all day for those 4 days. And I just remember one thing about Kairos ministry that they harped on was love, 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 listen, listen, listen. Love, 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 listen, listen, listen.
Real quick, could you, for individuals who may be, listening or watching that don't have an idea of Kairos, could you kind of give us a little bit of insight as to that organization?
Yeah. So Kairos is an international ministry, and their focus is going in, spreading the love of Christ inside prisons, mm-hmm. And juvenile halls. But they get partnerships from the local churches in whatever area that prison is. So they recruit from different churches. And they have the churches, the people who want to come in and serve, they have them coming into the yard, and it's kind of you're facilitating different workshops and things of that nature. So it's not anyone coming in and just preaching. It's people coming in there really
engaging,
interacting. Yeah. One of the biggest things I experienced there was the cross ceremony. So the cross ceremony is actually the last day. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys, his ministry is fully involved in Donovan State Prison. He's Pastor Roger Ziegler. He was like, hey, I was a young pup, right? So there was a lot of older guys there.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I want you to help me with the cross ceremony. So the cross ceremony is basically when these guys have an opportunity to say, hey, I want to repent, I want to leave that life, and I want to surrender my life to Christ. And we had 36 guys in our yard, and it was 33 guys who stood up to receive Christ that day at the cross. So it was like I had chills. Like you could just tell the Holy Spirit was working. Crying. And one of the guys that I was assigned to, so you get kind of assigned to a guy to engage, have conversations. He was a Muslim. Mm. He was a Muslim guy. And he stood up. And when I saw that, I just was like that's amazing, right? How the way God works, man. It's nothing that I did. I just came to serve, just mm-hmm. to be the hands and feet of Jesus there. But God used that weekend in a major way to draw those guys to Him.
Yeah, yeah. Kairos it's an amazing organization, bro. Like I experienced it, and yeah, the cross ceremony, bro, is what everybody remembers, and has dialogue about the days leading up to that.
The letters and stuff like that, yeah.
But nobody I think, is really prepared for what's going to take place on that day spiritually. Mm. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because the love and the grace and the mercy that everyone identifies God has blessed, them as far as like everybody that's there to serve, they're able to operate within that environment, day to day, I think like the individuals on the receiving end, initially that are there to like receive whatever's being brought, by, the Kairos organization, the brothers, it's like the anticipation for the next day as an experience, as a result of the experience from the day prior, is just building this momentum for what's about to take place that last day. And it's like, it's life changing. You know what I'm saying? And it's perspective shaping for or a lot of the dudes, especially the men that have experienced church on the outside or are experiencing church in prison. You know what I'm saying? It's just different because a lot of people go into it expecting, you know, people talk about, like I was sharing with you, the cookies. People talk about all of the you know, the stuff that men don't necessarily get on a regular basis, like given to them. You know what I'm saying? But then there's just so much that individuals don't realize when you eating them cookies, man, you eating, you know, the intention behind that as well. You know what I'm saying?
People been intentionally praying for those individuals, you know? I was a cookie man one year, and everybody's like, oh man, can you say those, you know, like when you the cookie guy, man, everybody want to be your friend.
Ain't that amazing though? Like how even it's like in that, I mean, all the attention is on whoever's coming in, like from the perspective of an individual that's doing time in the prison. It's like you're looking at these individuals coming in, you want to have a great experience, but in all actuality, you're looking at what you can get out of the experience. Just so happens that food is involved, you get free food, but the individuals that are handing, you know what I'm saying, like from hand to hand, whether it's cookie or whether, it's like it's an opportunity, you know what I'm saying, for you to like, you know, whatever the Lord puts on your heart, you know, to express or, you know what I'm saying, encourage.
And you learn from them too.
Yeah, most definitely.
I've got a lot of game from, like I said, I was like really like the young guy coming in. So when I was coming in, a lot of dudes would look at me like this young dude, like you could be anywhere right now. Like you could be anywhere right now, right? So, but man, the love of Christ, man, can't be denied, you know. And I saw family members in and out of prison. You know, the Lord led me there for a reason, man. So it was cool to get game from them to understand the prison system, because California prison system
is different.
It's different than other places, right? So I remember I had this rolling 60 Crip who was in Kairos, and he was breaking down how his sister had kids by a Hispanic guy, right? And when he was new to the prison system, he was there first, right? And then the Hispanic guy came in and he gave him a hug. And they were like,
that's a no-no.
No, that's a no-no. Like in his mind and his heart, it's like, I know that dude. He has kids by my sister. And they was like, no, that's not anything you can do. We're gonna give you a pass, but next time. And he was just
you could get killed over that
kind
of stuff.
And he was telling me that, and it was an eye opener, because you know, you think that's something you can do on the outside, you can do here. They don't cross over, man. They don't cross over at
all. Take us back to that transition, man. Like we're gonna rewind a little bit to like the first time, like you said, that internal battle that you had with like just being uprooted. You know, you was being uprooted from Philly going to Jersey?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what was? I mean, culturally, I can imagine. Like, I think as youngsters, we always think that even though we might be losing our friends, we might end up in an environment that's gonna kind of like be somewhat the same, right? Probably the same amount of individuals that look like me, and overall, probably just generally environmentally the same. Like, what were some of the things that were different that kind of either helped you to transition or made it harder for you to transition?
Yeah. You know, growing up in the inner city, you see you. And normally the people, when I grew up in Philly, normally the people who didn't look like me were police officers, firefighters, teachers. And if anybody know Philly, Chinese stores are huge. Like, they're everywhere in the inner city. So it was either of those things in your neighborhood, right? When I moved to Jersey, now you got a little black, you got a little white, you got a little Asian, you got a little Hispanic. It was more diverse in a sense, right? Of not everybody I went to school with was black, you know. But my mom and dad always like cross cultures, so like crossing into like other cultures, that wasn't like shocking to me to build friendships with, you know, white or Hispanic people. Like that wasn't anything that was shocking. I'm gonna be honest, the one shock that was a shock is like people having allergies.
Oh, is that right? You had never experienced that before?
Because I feel like I never had a friend or cousin who had allergies, because growing up in the city, like Philly is concrete, right?
Yeah.
When you moved to Jersey, it was more grass.
Yeah, it's more foliage
So
and stuff.
yeah. So when I moved over there, it was like, man, people talking about allergies. I'm like, and this is like not knowing, right? As a young kid, I'm like, Dad, I thought only white people had allergies. You know, like in my mind, right? Because that's what I saw like on TV and stuff like that. But I started to see, black people, Hispanics got allergies and stuff like that. So that was like one thing that I saw transitioning from Philly to Jersey. That was like for me. Like, oh man, everybody got allergies, you know, not just white people, you know.
Right. Emotionally, what were some of the roadblocks for you as far as like, you know, I mean, I'm sure your mom and your pops, like you said, your mom's just was like, look, you know, we're not about to just let you sit in this, and you know, put you in an environment that you kind of just had to work your way out of it. But what were some of the tools that you already kind of had to help you to work out of like that emotional rut to take advantage of your opportunity?
Yeah, I think, you know, having parents who like love and care for you. I got siblings who love and care. Like, you know, my older siblings, man, they, you know, they're there, you know.
Were you
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest, gosh.
I'm the youngest.
Okay.
Yeah. So my older siblings always looked out. My parents always looked out. But I think tools that help was sports, having an outlet. Two of my best friends that I have today, I started playing basketball with there, you know, when I moved over. So I was like having that tool. And the coach who coached me from 6th to 8th grade, I still have a relationship with. Like we talk to each other on the phone and text and stuff like that. So I think sports was very, very helpful. I had a teacher named Ellen Nickerson, my 6th grade teacher, when I transitioned from Philly to Jersey. She was just awesome. She was the bomb. She knew I was a kid transitioning over, you know, and she just provided that, I would say, motherly support. And I still keep in contact with her.
Got you.
Yeah, so when she comes visit San Diego, me and her, we'll go out to eat and stuff like that. So I think people really, like, I would say, draw interest, that coach and then that teacher. I think that was very beneficial for me during my transition, because maybe they didn't understand, but they knew I needed some extra support during that time. Yeah.
Would you say so? I mean, it would be safe to say then, outside of your parents, and then like also like externally outside of yourself, between like that educator and that individual that was coaching, they just played a big part in kind of just being able to identify what you needed to help you to transition.
Yeah. Those, I mean, Ellen Nickerson and Jose Aviles. So Jose Aviles coached me from 6th to 8th grade. He grew up in the projects. He came for nothing, and he wanted to give back to us that was in the community. And so he understood some of us that he was coaching, some of the family backgrounds and dynamics and things like that. So he was somebody who just loved support. I remember him picking us up for games or taking us home. And he was in college at the time. He would have newspapers in his car. So he was going to school and he was trying to earn money too.
Delivering newspapers.
Delivering and coaching in the community. So I remember that. He had this little small 2-door car. We'd be getting in, we'd be sitting on newspapers and stuff like that. And it was just like seeing where he's at now. He's working at top-notch universities.
Coaching?
No.
Or just
at admissions.
Got you.
So he's doing admissions work, helping to bring diversity of,
that's amazing.
You know, African American, Hispanic.
And just to know that was a part, and that's the thing too, in perspective, is like that was an individual that, you know, he was that all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, and he was seeing in you and whoever else he was, you know, a bridge for, you know what I'm saying, to get through a certain phase of life as a young, you know, man, like, while like reaching for what he right. And certain adversities try to force us from really embracing, you know what I'm saying? Like, who knows what his dynamic was in life, you know what I'm saying? But coming from the projects and just having to overcome a thought life, I'm sure, and having young ones around him to help him keep, you know, perspective. Because that's how I feel, that's ultimately what I was getting to, is like, to kind of like fast forward now to you being in a position to like mentor or provide, youth and juvenile detention facilities with what's necessary. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not to mention, I think we'll go here first. So we were conversating, you had mentioned a particular high school that you had the opportunity to be, a source of, just guidance within. You know what I'm saying? Can you want to talk a little bit about that? Then I'm just trying to correlate the reality of like what you received, not necessarily knowing that you would be in the same position one day, maybe not coaching in a physical sports way, but in another way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and in the beginning, I didn't mention this. I've always had a passion for working with people. And all my jobs have been related to working with people. So when I graduated college, I was assistant basketball coach for the women's team at my college, right? When I moved to San Diego, I started to work at San Pasqual Academy, which is a foster facility in Escondido. And then from there, I started to do in-home services. So I would travel to different homes to provide mental health services to kids that was on my caseload. But this particular school that you're talking about, I worked in Southeast San Diego at Lincoln High. So I was hired by the San Diego Unified School District it was 4 of us actually to start programs at high school. So it was 2 hired at Lincoln and then 2 hired at Mission Bay. It was going to be like a rehabilitation specialist mental health program, working with students. And, going into Lincoln, it was like going into home. Like I've heard a lot of things about, Lincoln and the community and the stigma that's attached to it. But when I walked into Lincoln, it was home. It's like people are people.
Right.
But we got to be able to go into these environments and allow these students to know that they are something. So a lot of the students that I was working with, this was kind of like their last stretch until maybe they were going to alternative school or something like that. So they were on a short kind of leash, people would say. So I had a scripture for Lincoln, and it was 1 Corinthians 11:1. And Paul says, "Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ." And I know one of the biggest things I could do at Lincoln was just be a positive example for these kids. That's all I could do. But the example I was following was Christ. So I had to be really abiding in Christ for them to see Christ. I didn't want them to see Mr. Thomas. I wanted them to see and experience the love of Jesus, So going into Lincoln, I had an opportunity to build good relationships with teachers, students, and I had an opportunity to build a relationship with one of the teachers, Lori Williams. She led the criminal justice class at Lincoln. And she had this class that was really dynamic because she had lawyers coming in, she had judges coming in, she had police officers like uniform, then she had detectives. So she had all of these like different areas covered to explain the criminal justice system, except the people who were actually being prosecuted for crimes. Right. So since I had friendships and good relationships with some guys who had changed their life around, who've been in prison, they were open to coming in and sharing their story. And one of them actually was from Lincoln. He graduated from Lincoln. He was from the neighborhood, right?
Went to the high school.
Went to the high school. So when he went in there, some of the kids, he knew their parents. Was like, "Oh, your last name such and such. Oh, yeah, I know. Oh, that's my dad, or that's my mom." Like, it was just like, he walked into an environment where he was able to speak the language, understand where these kids was coming from, but also give them some hope, for the future. So yeah, Lori Williams. And I remember going to the federal courthouse downtown San Diego, and one of my kids that was on my caseload, he didn't want to go because he had experience with incarceration in his family, right? And
he didn't want to go where?
He didn't want to go down to the federal. So they did like a mock trial at the federal courthouse.
As a part of the program?
Yeah. So at Lincoln, they have a one of the classrooms is set up as a courtroom, and they do mock trials in the classroom. So you have other schools who come and they do mock trials together.
At Lincoln?
At Lincoln.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really nice. I believe Sony gave money to help build the build the courtroom at Lincoln. Yeah, but it's real nice. It looks just like a courtroom instead of a classroom. And I remember this, and he was just like, I didn't want to go, and it was for two reasons, right? It was because of his experiences as a child, but also how he was going to be received with the clothes he had. And it was like, oh, we can get you clothes. That's not a problem. We can make sure you look good enough to go in there and represent. And man, he did an awesome job during the mock trial. He was very engaging, like
And
very
what role
helpful.
did he play? Like, do the kids get to engage and play a role?
Yeah, like judge, lawyer. I forget what role he played, but I just know he was heavily involved in. Like, he really enjoyed what he was doing, you know. And to see like how resistant he was going in, to see him actually go in and engage and like have a sense of peace and freedom of doing what he needed to do as far as his role.
How did those like moments like that, or just like from when you first stepped into Lincoln and begin to like just grow in your role of being a bridge for those individuals who you were able to impact, both teachers and students? How, like, what was happening inside of you? You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as like just growing your whole perspective about, you know, like your purpose. You know what I'm saying? And just like things that you probably, you know, sometimes I think we end up in situations that help us to understand all the more like what we might need to, whether it's study more or what we might need to kind of like enhance more to be more prepared, or, you know, like you realize, I'm not sure for you, but that's why I'm asking the questions. You realize like, man, like this is, you know, you were in a position to encourage this kid, like, but like clothes, don't let that stop you, or whatever else you had to, encourage the kid, you know what I'm saying, to step into that opportunity. Like, what were some moments, or like what are the things that was going on inside of you that helped you to understand, like, you know, not only are you here right on time, you know what I'm saying, you on purpose, but like I need to and this may not even been a thing for you, but like I need to become better. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to become more prepared. You know what I'm saying? This is serious.
Yeah. Like one of the things I've just learned with working with people, and you might go into a situation where you're going to go help somebody, but it actually changes you. I don't think the people you're going to help really understand the impact that they have on your life as well. So as you're going to help them, and it helps impact their life, they're actually impacting your life. Because I think one of the things it helped me as is becoming a father, right? So I've had all of these different experiences with these different students with different backgrounds, different traumas, and I feel like it's helped better prepare me as a father more than anything, because my son's 6. He hasn't really lived life, and he's going to live life, right? And I can look back at like, oh man, I remember the conversations I had with X, Y, and Z, you know, about this certain thing that now my son is going through, you know? So I think if anything, I noticed for me personally, as far as growth, it's going to help me in being a father, being, you know, walking alongside these young people, because they got all different types of needs, all different types of issues. And I think it's going to help me as I walk alongside my son to help nurture him and guide him, you know, and continue to point him to Christ. But the one thing I really enjoyed is that knowing, and I think something I've learned with working with, especially young people, is that they can impact the world. Yeah. Like, it's like, I think sometimes they put limits. So like one of the things I've really understood working in the school system when I work is that a lot of students look at teachers or the adults in the school, and I get it, rightfully so, right? They probably have degrees or whatever. They're paid to come there to teach, so they do have influence. But I think the biggest influencers are the students. Yeah. If you look at the ratio of students to teachers, the students are always going to outnumber the teachers. So I feel like as students really feel like empowered, they feel supported, they feel loved, but also putting them in situations where they can excel, man, I think the sky's the limit for, man, our youth, man.
Yeah. Did you ever meet any opposition from any teachers, You know what I'm saying? Like, were there any teachers, and obviously you don't got to say names, but were there any instances where you may have ran into some, like, you know, we don't necessarily need this here, or, and if so, like, how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So I got hired specifically at Lincoln, but the school district had budget cuts, so then they asked me to go to other schools. So I've worked in La Jolla, I worked in Claremont, so I worked in, you know, different settings in San Diego. I think the one thing about Lincoln area, because I worked in multiple schools in that area, is that when they see someone who's coming in who's positive, but who loves the students, I didn't get any pushback from any teachers. And also my intention was, when I go into this setting, is it's not only for the students, how can I be a support for the
Staff.
Right? Because sometimes it's either students or it's either staff. How can I be a bridge in between both of them to help both of them out? So at Lincoln, I didn't, or in that area, because I worked at Millennial Tech as well, I didn't get any pushback from any teachers. I've worked in some other schools where I think more of like, it was more territorial. Not that what I was doing, but like, this is my class. And like, this is my class. Like, you're coming in here, don't tell me what to do. But one of the things the Lord opened my heart to was to just focus on building relationships. Because that's what it's about. If we're both working together to help impact this kid's life, I got to make sure I'm intentionally investing in and getting to know this teacher as well as this student.
Right. What was one of the most empowering things a kid said, a young person, or we'll just stick with young person right now, said to you, or, you know, a moment that a young person may have had that empowered you?
Man.
Or there may be more than one.
Yeah,
You know?
it's crazy because there are kids from Lincoln that was on my caseload that I still spend time with today. That I've stepped into a discipleship relationship, a spiritual relationship. So that's really cool how God puts you in certain environments, and you're not only with them during that time, like, you get to walk with them
Through life.
You know, after that, through life, right? So that's been like really impactful. But this one time I had a freshman student at Lincoln, and the first time I met her, she gave me the middle finger. So I got to read her background of the things she's been through. Her mom was in prison. Her dad was in prison. She's been through the foster system. So, like, I'm going to work with you. You're going to be just like everybody else. You're going to leave me. You know, so when I met her, she gave me the middle finger. And she was having some behavioral issues in class, doing the same thing to the teacher. And the teacher said, you know, like, this is not the place, this kid. I said, you got to understand, I don't condone her behavior, but you got to understand, this kid is hurt. Like, this kid has been beat up. And we have to take a step back, not take it personal, and build trust.
Right.
As we build that trust, those walls are going to, because it's a long game. I think a lot of times people are looking for the short game.
A lot of people want the short game.
They want the short game.
Because it takes from us too, like, as human beings, period, whoever you are, to actually be patient, be humble, be kind, be loving. That stuff, it all takes your will to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the right way. And if you're not willing to love and willing to be gracious and willing to be, like, merciful and all of that, then you will, all you are going to desire is to get in and out. But if you are willing to do it, you have to understand it's going to take.
Yep.
It's going to take the perspective that this is, set yourself up for the long game. If it happens in a short amount of time, you know, then yeah, you know what I'm saying, accept it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, like, it's like, you know, they see these kids, they want things to happen like that, and it's like, no, we got to prepare for the long game. So I started to really, like, build a relationship with the student. You know, even though I read her file and I knew some of the things she started to share with me, oh, like, my mom's in prison, my dad's in prison. And her school therapist was like, yeah, you know, Mr. Thomas, he's going through family members being in prison. So we started to talk about that. So she would come. Lincoln gave us a classroom, and I would open it during lunch, and any kids can come in. We had TVs in there, games, like anybody can come in there. It was like a safe haven, you know, for the kids. And she would come in there, and me and her would start to just eat lunch. She liked oldies. I like oldies. So I used to let her, hey, plug my phone up. You're in charge of the Pandora. You play the oldies. And we just started to talk about life. And through talking about life, that trust just started to build. Trust started to build.
That's
and
amazing.
Then once that trust was built, then I was able to speak into her life about what was going on in the classroom. It's like, okay, let's talk about these things. Let's talk about some coping mechanisms you can start to apply in the classroom. And one of the things I told her, I said, you can be a positive influence on your teacher. Like, don't wait for your teacher to do X, Y, and Z. You can start coming to your teacher. So I said, if you see your teacher, she has something nice on, she has nice hair, give her a compliment. Don't wait for your teacher to compliment you. So I wanted her to be the one to start.
Be proactive.
Be proactive, start initiating. Because I think a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm the student, like they're the adult, they supposed to. It's like, no, you can do it. You can show them. So her teacher had some interactions that, you know, the teacher didn't approve of. She was kicking her out of class. But one day, the teacher came to me and told me, said, she's been coming to visit me during lunch. And it was like a time period where she wasn't coming to see me. She wasn't hanging out with me. And I didn't take any, you know, like she's a kid, you know, she wants to hang out with her friends, you know. But she was actually going to go spend what she was doing, what we were doing together during lunch. She took that
and went to go try to execute it
and apply it with her teacher. So like to go back to what you're saying, one of my biggest, like, I would say moments in working at Lincoln, this teacher said that, she said, hey, Mr. Thomas, like the things you taught me and the things I went through with the students, she said, I'm changing my whole curriculum of how I approach these students. Because relationship is important. So one of the things I believe as a teacher, you might have a lot of students, but you can take 5 seconds, 10 seconds to connect with somebody. You notice something about a student, you can hold them back and just say, hey, you know what, John or Steve or Melissa, I've noticed this today. You have your hoodie on the last 3 days. You don't wear a hoodie. I'm just letting you know I notice it. If you need me, I'm here for you. And you can write them a pass. I think a lot of times, like, you try to get the answer out of them. It's just letting students know, I recognize this. I haven't seen this. If you need somebody, I'm here for you. And that shows, okay, like, all right, my teacher's not trying to beat me up the head, try to get information out of me. And then you follow up. I would say, hey, follow up, you know, what's been going on? Are you okay? I've just let you know, I'm here. If a student shares something with you that's intimate, listen to them, hear them out, but then follow up with them to see how it's going, you know? And that teacher was just like, man, I'm changing my whole curriculum on how I even approach these students and engage with them in class. I would say that was like the biggest, like, moment, because now it wasn't only with the student that I work with. Now it's going to affect generations and generations of students that she's going to teach.
Because the whole curriculum has shifted. Yeah, that's amazing, man. Was Lincoln the only high school that you worked at as far as
my bulk? My bulk was at Lincoln. I had a student at Claremont High one time and La Jolla, but it was just like 1 or 2 cases. But Lincoln was there. Millennial Tech, which is a feeder middle school to Lincoln. I had them, and then I had all of La Jolla. I had La Jolla Elementary, Torrey Pines, Maryland's Middle. So those were my 2 clusters that I had to serve when I worked for the district.
What was your experience in that institutional environment of like of detention for kids? You know what I'm saying? Like, did you have I'm sure the opportunity to serve and like be available, I'm sure there were similarities, but as far as like what were you able to, like, what was your main role there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so juvenile hall, so we would do a Bible study. We would do a Bible study at juvenile hall. So we're coming, we're bringing the scriptures, the love of Christ. But I think one of the things, and I had a probation officer who was in the pod pull me aside one day, and he said, "Thank you for being real with them." So during a Bible study, I can see different dudes who maybe didn't get along, right? Or doing hand signals or stuff like that. And I would stop and in a loving way, hold them accountable and let them know, like, hey, this is what we're here for. Remind them, this is what we're here for. If you guys want to talk about something that's going on, let's figure out how to talk about it instead of this rolling into next week, oh, they got into a fight or whatever, you know? I had a couple kids give me hugs just because I could see, and I'm like, you guys don't understand. I see the tip of the iceberg. I see that you guys are mad at each other. That's the tip of the iceberg. What's going on under the surface? So I could, in a Bible study, give them scripture, but also give them game of like, I know it's deeper than it's something going on under the surface. Mm-hmm. Like what's going on with you? You know, oh, you know, my mom or my dad was supposed to come visit me. They ain't come visit me, or my little sister, she got in some trouble. Like, you know, she ain't been home. You know, like let's be real. Let's talk. Like you gotta get those things out. So I was coming in there sharing the love of Christ, but also allowing these kids to see, man, like you gotta deal with your stuff. Like you gotta, because we're so used to holding it in, right? Yeah. We're so used to holding it in. And what happens? As soon as that lid pop, boom, you explode, you know? So I would say in the juvenile detention center, I think that's one of the things that I was able to bring from working in mental health is to kind of give them some game on like, hey, man, these are some things you can do. Or, hey, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
If you got beef with him, let's break it.
Try to figure out.
Yeah, let's try to figure it out. Yeah. Like nah, because it's not helping any of you guys. It's actually hurting you. Right. You know? So
how long were you able to serve in that capacity?
I did juvenile hall probably like maybe 2 years. Mm. Yeah. And then COVID hit, and it was more of the expiration of my time. It expired, and then I started doing like the discipleship ministry. So my time was spent in other areas. So gotcha. Yeah. So it was more like a time thing. Yeah. Time commitment of not going back in there.
What was like, I think about it, man, because I'm able to go in there today, and the dynamics, man, for these young ones, it's deep, you know what I'm saying? Like they go through a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like from you know, certain corrections officers just not being able to relate to what they're going through, to disappointments like family members not being able to follow through on their commitments, to just facing time, to no one necessarily understanding just that general reality of like most of the kids is that every day you see them, the reality is there is a tip of the iceberg reality. It's just there's so much rooted deep down inside that they feel like no one, them kids are in there with no one from their principal environment, like whether it be household or whether it be neighborhood, and all there is all day to do for a lot of the kids is just walk around waiting for an opportunity to like release. What were some of the things that you were able to, you know, other than the example you gave us, express to them, you know, because I can imagine when you got ready to leave after being able to spend time with them, there is kind of like that inward conflict, you know what I'm saying? But being able to identify some external conflict, what were some things that you were able to like impart to them to kind of like help them, at least hoping that it'll help them to stay focused until the next time you get to meet?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, Timothy, is that I'm on the same road y'all on. Mm-hmm. Like, I got anger stuff, or I get frustrated, and I have to take a step back. So as I tell you, I also have to apply. So I'm not coming in here telling you to tell you. It's like, no, I was tripping this week. I had to take a step back. I had to take some deep breaths. I had to start praying You know, I had to talk to my mentor, you know, so it gives them a realistic example of like, okay, this dude's coming in, he got mad, he went to talk to somebody, or he stopped and he thought before he reacted. Oh, he said he prayed, you know? So it's like, I think sometimes it's like, oh yeah, you should do this, especially coming in like a spiritual sense. You come to do Bible study and it's like, boom, boom, boom. But nah, this is a reality. And I would be vulnerable with them that was appropriate for them. So they see like, no, I'm on the same journey you guys on. You guys are locked up, but I'm dealing with some stuff too. But this is who I'm seeking, and these are the things that I'm doing to try to help. Or I might have to go exercise.
Yeah.
Or I might have to go write. I journal. You know, yeah, I use a journal. I write. I have to get my release out in a positive way instead of getting in an argument with my wife or mistreating my son the wrong way. You know, like those things can come out. So these are my outlets for me. So I think vulnerability was like, I feel like really key with them, and like kind of like speaking their language.
Got you. Like, what was your work-life balance? You know what I'm saying? Situation.
That's
like,
good. That's good. Yeah, especially you know working with young people. You go into these IEP meetings and you go into these homes. You see what they're going through. You know, one of the things I tried my best not to do was bring that into my door, because now I gotta set boundaries and I gotta guard my relationship with my wife and my son. So I even asked my wife one day, I was like, hey, does my work affect, and she's like, no. You know, so that was something that I was intentionally mindful of before going in, of not letting whatever happened at work today go into my home. But my son, the way I do it, man, I allow my son to be involved in everything. So if it's like a Bible study, if it's like going to have lunch with some of these young guys, whatever it is, I look at it. I don't look at it like my son over here and this over here. I look at it as this, you know, because I want him to see how to live out being what a disciple looks like. Like, it's not like I'm just doing this thing. Oh, no, this is a lifestyle. So he sees, so he can go have a conversation with an adult and talk to them, because he's used to going into these Bible studies and talking to these young men when I meet them and asking them how they're doing. You know, what are some goals you have? Like, he's having conversation with them, but that was intentional. I would prep them before we go. Hey, we're going to have a Bible study with LJ or Jake. Make sure you ask them, you know, how their day's going, how their week's going. You know, so now I say it now. He's like, I already know. I already know. You know, like, so it's cool. I overlap it. You know, my son here, wife over. No, this is Christ is at the center of everything, and it overlaps together. So that's one of the things that I use, because I want my son to be a part of it. Because as he grows and as he follows Christ, when he has a family, right? When he has a family, I don't want him to think like, oh, I can't go out and serve the Lord. It's like, oh, you can serve the Lord. Have your family involved in it.
How did stepping into fatherhood, what were like some of the main things that just like changed in your perspective and mindset when you realized, like, man, I'm about to be a father, and then when you realize I'm about to be a father to a son? Yeah, that's huge, man. I think one of the main things is like, it's responsibility. Like, you got to understand that I tell young men who have kids, the decisions that you make doesn't only affect you, it affects them. So when you're getting high, you're getting drunk, and you're doing whatever, right? That doesn't only affect you, it affects them, you know? So I think that's one of the biggest things the Lord put on my heart, is just like, I'm not gonna make every decision the right way, but I wanna be in tune to the will of the Holy Spirit to help guide me, because the decisions I make, like I said, not only, I'm married too, not only it affects my wife, right?
It affects my son. So yeah, that's one of the big things I think, Timothy, is just like really like being responsible and making sure make the right decisions in order to not harm him, you know. But in that, the decisions that I make can be positive too.
Right.
So not only negative, so the decisions I make can influence his life in a positive way.
Got you.
You know, as well. So
I'm learning. I don't know why I went into the concept of like raising children, believing that I was going to be, between me and my wife, that we were going to be the only, like the teaching was going to be one-sided. You know what I'm saying? Like we were going to be the ones that were going to be teaching, and that they were going to be the ones that were going to be primarily learning. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm learning now that, and I'm glad I'm learning it now. You know what I'm saying? That they teaching me every day. And I'm learning so much every day. I was going through something about, you know, ever since we having another little boy, and you know, there's something about this reality that's just been challenging me, and I haven't been able to pin it, but I was working one night and I was talking to my son on the phone, and I had shared with him, you know what I'm saying, that my day was a bit challenging because I had been experiencing some adversities in my thought life about some of the failures that I had in life. So then he asked me, but people, like, everybody has failures, right? People have failures. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, why do people have failures? Like, why is failures, like, why is it what it is? And I was like, it was deep, because I thought he was more so asking because, you know, he's about to be 12. He's going through a hard-headed phase right now, to where he believes he's very much older than what he is. You know what I'm saying? And he's had, you know, we have to talk to him often. I mean, it's getting better, but he was pretty much, I thought he was asking more so, just trying to relate to me, and kind of like, so I was like, and I thought he was actually trying to line it up to express to me, like, see, like, whenever I fail, y'all be getting on me. You know what I'm saying? But like,
try to reverse it on you.
Trying to reverse it on me. So I shared with him, like, you know, we all fail, man. But the cool thing about failure, so now here it is, like, I'm starting to talk to myself without realizing it yet. I'm like, you know, failure is necessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's how we learn, and it's how we get better. You know what I'm saying? Like, it prepares us. Because without the reality of failure, a lot of us, we won't really be able to identify like real success. You know what I'm saying? Which is inward first, because before it really manifests outwardly. And so he was like, yeah, so just remember, after I explained myself, he said, just remember that even though you've been to prison, so mind you, this is just coming out of him, even though you've been to prison, you made mistakes and failures, you were a gang member, you did drugs, like he's saying all this to me. He said, you don't do that no more. Like, you learned from all of that stuff, and now you're in a position to be the best dad you can be to me.
That's dope, man.
It just hit me with it, and I was just like, man. And I learned that sometimes, like, how you communicate to your children, like, had I never been transparent with him about any of that, he would have never been in a position to kind of just walk me into a teachable moment. You know what I'm saying? About, like, this too shall pass. You good. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least
it's temporary.
It's temporary. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I wanted to ask you, what was like, like, if you can remember a particular moment where your son taught you something. I mean, I know they teach us every day, like I mentioned, but something that kind of like just helped you to kind of, you know, it just shifted your perspective a little bit.
Yeah, you're right, man. I feel like there's a lot coming out. I would say the main thing is grace, right? Because like you said, we have an opportunity to be vessels to help them grow and point them to Christ. But my wife had said something. She was like, I think you are a little too hard on him at times. And it kind of goes back to what you were asking earlier. Like, one of the things, like raising a son, I feel like, and he's half black and he's half Hispanic. But when people look at him, they're gonna see a black boy.
Right.
in our society, right? So I think with that has put me on like, okay, man, just make sure he's being held accountable and things like that. But I think the one thing my son has showed me was grace. Like in a relationship with him, is making sure he's experiencing grace. Yeah, he needs accountability in his life, but he also needs to experience God's grace in his life. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably like the biggest thing I've learned in interaction with him. It's like, yeah, I want to make sure he's held accountable, because, you know, once he grows and he's out here, you know, he needs to know how to live life in society, right? Because people are going to look at him a certain way.
Right.
But I also got to teach him what grace looks like as well when it comes with that accountability.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
How has your wife anchored you in just like your decision making? You know, your steward in fathership, your steward in husbandhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, talk to us a little bit about like how you appreciate her. Yeah. You know, being who she is in your life.
Yeah, I think it all starts with grace, because I wasn't the boyfriend that I was supposed to be, you know. And she offered me grace, and she accepted me, you know. And when I asked her to marry me, she accepted that, you know. And I think the one thing my wife always offers is grace, But I think my wife sees that I'm in love with Christ.
Right.
So I think grace is offered. I think if I wasn't in love with Christ, I probably wouldn't be like, I'm done with you.
Right.
To be honest. But
her towards you.
Yeah. You know, it's just like, I'm done with you. You just, you know. But I think my wife sees that Christ is first in my life, and I continually receive grace, because I mess up all the time, right, in marriage. So sometimes I'm selfish. Sometimes I react in a way I shouldn't react, right? Whether it could be sarcasm, right? I think it's funny, and it's like, well, that really wasn't funny, you know. But she continues to offer grace, and I think that's one of the main things in my relationship with Christ is, as I'm in pursuit of Him, is like, man, like His grace is unlimited. It's like, Lord, you didn't have to do that
at all.
Like, I'm not even worthy of this blessing you've given me, but because of your grace, you're giving it to me. Mm-hmm. And I get to understand Him more, and I get to understand, like, I want to just keep pursuing you. Like Christ, like Paul says, I just want to know you. You know, leave everything behind. I just want to know you. Everything is considered dung, but I just want to know you, Christ. Mm-hmm. So I think that's been helpful in my marriage, is that even through the challenging times, even through the joyful times, my wife supports me pursuing Christ. You know, when I said, hey, I want to leave my job, the Lord is calling me to, she was like, I think it's crazy, but if the Lord is calling you to do this, that I'm with you. I support you. Yeah. You know, so.
What's a goal that you guys both set out together, mm-hmm. and accomplished together, and how did it impact your marriage?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest goals we set was like getting a property. You know, really like, hey, we want to, you know, own a property and, you know, own future properties. And I think my wife was like really a good spearhead on that, because I was like, oh, we should probably get a home first. And she was like, hey, look at it this way. If we get a condo, maybe we can use that as an income property. Or if we don't use it as an income property, we can sell it, and then that'll get us a home. You know, so like even in our discussions with that, like her mind was like, yeah. And I was cool with getting a condo, right? I was cool. I'm totally content in that. But my wife was like, yeah, just look at it this way, because this can help build, you know, wealth in the future. Like, right. You know, like we get
that'll
this
stay within the
stay within the family. So I think that, and setting money aside for my son each month. You know, so he has an account. Let's make sure if we start with $10, that can go to $20, that can go to 50. You know, and setting that money aside for him, so when he turns 18, he has something that we didn't have.
Right.
You know, so I think those are like two things besides helping him walk with the Lord, making sure he has people who are Christ-centered around him that can speak into his life. But yeah, I would say those two things me and my wife talked about: getting a property, and then, you know, helping our son in the future financially.
Got you. As far as like where you're at today, perspective-wise, spiritually, environmentally, what are like? I'll just ask that. Like, where are you? Like, where are you today as far as like your perspective of who you I don't want to use the word desire, but just for, you know, for just like for lack of better words, you know, where you desire to be, you know what I'm saying, in the near future. Where are you at? Like, where are you at now, and what do you believe it's going to take for you to get there? You know, as the leader of your home, as the leader of what you represent, you know, with navigators, and just like with whatever else is just on your radar as far as conquering.
Yeah, that's good, man. And those are different components, right? So, you know, as a husband, I want to continue to grow my relationship with my wife, continue to get to know her. I think that sometimes when you've known a person for so long, you're like, oh, I know them. But no, I want to continue to get to know my wife. I want to continue to get to know her hopes and her dreams, and come alongside of her to encourage her and support her. Keep it fresh. Travel the world. That's one thing I would say for our family too. We talked about we want to travel the world.
Have you guys been able to get out and get anywhere yet?
Yeah. We went to Spain and Portugal last year. Yeah, my in-laws moved to Spain, so we had an opportunity to go visit them. But this is something we talked about even before they move, right? It's like something but it gave us access now. It gave us easier access now to go, because now we have somewhere to stay too.
You got somewhere to go.
You got somewhere to go, you know, and visit. So for my marriage, man, it's just continue to grow in the Lord, but also continue to get to know my wife better, support her, encourage her, and also experience the world with her. You know, that's something that, you know, we want to do together. And then as a father, man, I want to. My biggest thing with my son is to continue to be his father, show him that someone loves him, care for him, but to also help influence his life so now that he can go impact the next generation. So that's something that's always in my mind of like, I'm not going to always be with him. You know, the Lord, I can go today, I can go tomorrow. But as I continue to walk with him and be someone who's speaking into his life, how can I help me and my wife help him influence the next generation? You know, because who's the next generation of leaders? I'm not saying he needs to be the president or whatever if God calls him to do that, but for him to live a lifestyle that's going to be out there to help impact others. I think that's really personally important for me as far as my son, seeing that. And for myself, man, to be honest, I just want to be obedient to what the Lord wants.
Got you.
You know, I feel like I'm called to serve here in San Diego, specifically to be amongst people who don't know Jesus, to help raise leaders and laborers who do know Jesus, to help them make disciples where they are, where they live, work, and play. But I just want to be obedient. Like, I want to travel the world. I want to enjoy my wife and son, but I also want to be a light in our community to help impact those around us. And I'm just trusting God, you know, with that. There are some goals I want as far as like maybe doing something in the educational system, some things I've written up, but really trying to see, you know, how that aligns with what God wants me to do right now.
Got you.
Yeah.
As far as discipleship, man, like what is, you know, how would you define discipleship?
Yeah, that's good. I would define discipleship as helping someone grow in their relationship with the Lord. You're pointing them to Christ, right? So I kind of look at 3 Ds. I look at being a disciple first, right? That's someone who's a student, who's a learner, who's following Christ, right? Who's growing their desire to want to continue to know him. And then we have discipleship. It's helping you grow in your knowledge and understanding of Christ, grow into spiritual maturity. But 3, disciple making. What does that look like? As I or you invest in somebody else, how can you help them with the vision of living this as a lifestyle to say, hey, wherever I go, right? If I work at Starbucks, if I live in Oceanside, if I work for Microsoft, right? That I have the mindset of like, yeah, I'm here for my certain responsibilities for my work, but also I want to bring the love of Christ and advance the gospel and make disciples in this area.
That's
so that's how I look at the whole discipleship thing. It's like, if I'm going to help X, Y, and Z grow in their relationship, I also got to help them with the vision of going out and being fisher of men. Because that's what Jesus told Peter. You're not only going to catch fish, I'll make you a fisher of men. So, and that's one thing the guy who discipled me talked about. He talked about, hey, I'm gonna help you grow in your relationship with Christ, but I also want to help equip you and train you to be a fisher of men.
What was your perspective of being a disciple before, like going into it?
Yeah, that's good. Like before, when I was a non-Christian, I just wanted to live my life the way I wanted to live my life, And then when I had this conversation with the guy who discipled me, Tim. It was about me, not me being perfect, but me being in a relationship with the Lord and abiding in him. But to also look around and see there are lost people around you. Like, your relationship with Jesus is not only for you, it's for you to share with others. So, and I understood that. So the vision was set. So it wasn't like, just church is a thing, or you just do this, you just do that. Like, you get to do these things. Like, I get to go to church. I get to read my Bible. I get to pray. I get an opportunity and privilege to go invest in other people. So nobody has to do any of those things. But if we want to bring glory to God, the Great Commission tells us, to go out and make disciples, The Great Commandment tells us to love the Lord our God with all our heart and soul, right? And love our neighbor as ourselves, right? So, like, when I read those things, it's just like, I want those things to, really marinate in my heart, but I also want to bring glory to God in all that I do.
Got you. Who is like the main, if you could give credit to, I won't say one person, but, if you can name somebody that had the biggest impact of like leading you. I mean, you mentioned, the individual that first decided to like take you on and disciple you. Would that be the individual that you would say has had the biggest impact of like just your growth and development as a brother in Christ?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I heard the gospel from my uncle at my grandfather's funeral, but for someone to come alongside of me. So I met this dude, Tim. We met for 3.5 years. We met either once or twice a week for 3.5 years. Straight, me and him. And it was really organic, where we were meeting at coffee shops, restaurants, and he was just coming alongside of me, helping me grow in my faith, talking to me about real life stuff that was going on. I wanted to get married, so he's talking about, what does a marriage look like, a Christ-centered marriage look like, and things like that. So we were talking about some really like heavy topics. And he's still in my life to this day. He married me and my wife. Me and him meet probably once a month now. So the thing about discipleship is like, it was heavy. He was discipling me heavy in the beginning, but as the person starts to grow, you send him off, but he's still here. He coaching me. He's like my biggest coach, cheerleader, cheering me on.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I would say him for sure, because he's never given up on walking alongside of me and my family. So it's not just me, it's my family. His family is walking alongside, our family.
And when it comes to you discipling, is there that one or two, or is there a few individuals that you're discipling, at the moment and have been for a while, or like usually, like what is your perspective on that as far as like have you ever been put in a position where an individual was like, man, I'm good, what I'm saying? Like I got it, what I'm saying? Like I don't need, what I'm saying, your discipleship no more, or has it, do you still have those, solid relationships, and it's just always, as far as the individuals that you've discipled, is it still forward progress?
Yeah, no, that's good. I actually stepped into a discipleship relationship with a guy recently, and that's what he thought he wanted, right? That's what he thought he wanted, and come to find out, it's not really something that he wanted. I think he's battling, he grew up in Islam, so I think it's more of that, of understanding like what does following Christ mean, and I grew up in Islam, and so this just happened recently, and we just sat down. I just, it's like it takes a commitment between both of us, right, to step into this relationship. But the other guys, man, I've been discipling. Some of them I've been discipling for a while, and it's more like coaching now.
Got you.
So the relationship looks different. Like their time and effort is now, as a guy I disciple up in San Marcos, he's discipling somebody else. So our time together is probably like once a month.
Got you.
Or texting here and there. It's just more like I'm his coach. When we get together, we talk about life stuff, we talk about work, we talk about family. But he, just constantly trying to allow him to see, hey, the vision is there, like you're doing it, keep up the good work, If you need anything, I'm here, So, that's the only one, and that just happened recently.
Right.
Where he, it's kind of like, I really don't understand what this is, and like, what's going on, because the disciples had to be committed to Jesus, right? And when they stepped into that relationship. So when you're stepping into someone's life, that's a real commitment, So
in the context of everything you've shared today, man, and like just your lived experience, from your first traumatic reality, what I'm saying? Well, you've had several, what I'm saying? You've had people murdered, you've had people go to prison, you've just like in the context of all of that, home, like in within your most in the closest of proximities to like indirect traumas from just having relationships with individuals. If you could just share something for our listeners or viewers concerning I don't know, any words of encouragement, any words of empowerment.
Yeah, man, any words of encouragement I would tell people, man, is it's not over, like there's hope. You may have a past, you may have a present, but there's also a future, and that future, it depends on you. One of the things I really strongly believe in is start to make a plan, have some goals, make a plan. One of the guys I work with, before the pandemic, he's playing video games and not really like doing anything, and we sat down and we talked about goals, we talked about planning, and he made 2 goals, and within a year and a half he accomplished them. And now when I talk to him, he's making goals on his own, but when he explains the goals to me, he's like, this is my plan to achieve this goal. This is my plan to achieve this goal. So especially for, anybody, especially any young people who are listening or watching, start to write down some of your goals and start to write step by step on how you can achieve them. And you may not achieve them when you want to achieve them, but you're making steps towards achieving that goal. Yeah, man, I just know the future is bright, man. I believe in our youth and our young people, man. You guys can impact the world. You guys can influence your family. You can influence your friends. You can influence your neighborhood in a positive way that can help change the perspective of what other people think about you.